Hey guys, Mike here. So another loaded video for you. I'm going to bring you Tom Lee's latest interview. He has been spot on for the last couple of years when it comes to crypto and the markets. He makes another call today, and there's not a lot of time left in the year for this call. So I'll bring that to you. I'll also show you something I told members where it's like, I get these comments, down there saying, oh my God, we're in a euphoric state and all that stuff. And I understand why it feels that way because of what's going on with crypto and what's going on with these high flying stocks. But what are you seeing happening? You're seeing these high-flying stocks getting major profit taking happen. You saw it in FinTech today. I'll show you why. I'll show you exactly why FinTech sold off today. Okay, it's all in the charts. So I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you if you're a long-term investor in these stocks, what you want to see. Okay, and I'll show you that as well as this right here, which is kind of interesting. I'll show you something else also. I'm thinking about it to watch out for. I'll put it on a futures chart. But basically what you'll see on the Qs or could see on the Qs as well, and why. Now, I want to start with this chart here because this is household allocation to stocks at all-time highs. And so I'm kind of looking at this thinking, well, if it was a stock chart, you can see what happened. The big peaks are .com 2020, which is the end of 2020, going into 2021, we sold down, and now. And so, let me know. I honestly, it was funny that I thought it's been higher than 41.8%, but you see we're at this peak. And so, yes, a lot of allocation. We see what's happening last time. Does it mean something else is fixing to happen going into 2025? We'll see. But here's what Tom Lee says about the year-end rally and why it's happening.
I think that this most recent rally says about the overall risk appetite in the market right now.
Well, it's really telling us investors are pro-risk. I do think it also just signals how much capital has been idle for the last couple of years, either parked in money market cash or waiting to see if the economy survived. So I think Bitcoin rising is to me, breaking out of a holding pattern is a precursor to what the S&P is going to do the rest of the year.
Speaking of the moves in the broader markets, you say the road to 6,300 is paved with bumps. What do you expect investors to see ahead that may slow them down? What are some of the key markers that you're looking for?
Well, I think there's a lot of macro to digest the next 3 weeks. Tomorrow is the jobs report, and I think investors are fearful that it's going to be too strong because of the hurricane and seasonal adjustment, so it's going to be a big number. Next week is CPI, which has been running a little hot, and Fed Chair Powell spoke about that earlier this week. And then, of course, on the 18th is the FOMC rate decision. So I think once we're through these events, investors can actually then invest into sort of that Christmas Santa Claus rally. So I think 6,300 is still very doable.
So you're basically saying don't go away after the 18th because there may be some additional upside toward the end of the year?
Yes, or buy the dips, yeah.
So I wanted to see that, and here's what I had to say to members this morning. I said, look, what's happening right now is obviously the Qs are catching up. 4 green days in a row, way outside the weekly expected move at this point in time. Normally you see some kind of at least flattened out or pull back into that. But the QQEW, which is the equal weight ETFs I showed you, is set new all-time highs as well. So people are just flooding into all of tech. And so because of this, what you're seeing is the sentiment and breadth aren't at extreme levels, and I'll show you what I'm talking about in just a minute. It feels like they are, especially with what's going on with crypto and stuff. And then I'll talk about how Tom Lee, which you just heard, is expecting 6,300 by year end. That does not mean it's not going to be bumpy, okay? And I'll show you what I'm talking about in a second. But you can see the 2 fear and greed indexes I show, none of them are extreme greed. One's at 56, one's at 68. You're seeing stocks above their 50-day moving average, and the S&P is only 62. NASDAQ is 70. It's starting to get up there. But usually once you start getting like 78, 80, in those areas, that's when you're like, oh boy, watch out. We're definitely fixing to try to have a pull down or at least some kind of form of a correction. And, I told you yesterday in the Qs, I said, if we break this trend line, obviously we'll finally see some sell down. Let's see if we hold the 1.272 fib, which we did. We held that level. So looking at this very simply, if we break that level, now we're going to talk about the gap. The gap fill is definitely going to be talked about for sure, especially heading into Friday. A lot of this will depend on the data tomorrow and how they want to move the markets. But again, it's been a big move up. And what happened is if let's say we did have a down day tomorrow, all of a sudden we come back down into the weekly expected move area, which is only 0.82% from where we closed, okay? And as the market is closed right now, it's still selling down some in the futures. Looking at NQ, don't be surprised. Do not be surprised over the next, 1 to 3 days if we come down around like 21,000 on NQ, maybe 2,900, between 2,900 and 20,100, somewhere in there. And the reason why I say that is, one, because yes, are we in need of a pullback? Yeah, it's been a big move, right? The market has digested. It needs to come down and pull liquidity in order to set up for the next move. It's just the way the market does move. But when I look at this, I'm going to take these fibs away and pull some more fibs for you. That area would put us from that move up at the beginning of December, right around the 0.79 fibs. So we've been a big time discount range, okay? And I think a lot of buyers would step back in, trying to push us up to year end. That's just my thought. Let me know what you think in the bottom. Now, looking at some stocks. We've talked about Roblox forever and a day. It was in stage one forever. Okay, me and some of the members have been talking about this, along with the stage one, along with the big move. And again, where's it heading? I've been saying this for, I don't know, 6 months finally, but it's going towards this gap, right? That's where it's going. This is a weekly chart. You can't see it, but I'll scroll back over and let you see what I'm talking about. It stopped right there at the bottom of that gap. Now, do I expect to close the gap tomorrow? Absolutely freaking not. It could. They can continue to push it. But it's a big move up for this stock in particular, okay? And this one has big moves up and especially big moves down, as you can see throughout it. And whenever you get momentum going, you're like, this is it, and they'll just like pull back like 20% or something. But when you look at it, you know, we'll see. This is obviously an upward trend. We're still in this upward trend. Big gap up on election day like everything else, then came back down to earth, and then started rocking it up. So again, you're in stage two. Stage two is where you get most of your gains. It was in stage one forever. Okay, you can see we're right at that top fib right there, right around 60, which puts us in the gap. So it doesn't mean it's going to rocket back up into this. And if you're in this thing, you really want to see like the stock base out, right? You really want to see at some point in time come down, retest support, you know, or resistance, turn it back into support, all that fun stuff. And so when I pull this fib on it, you can see that's the top one's right above the top of that gap. And so we've seen a lot of stocks that have been lagging, doing what? We talked about this for weeks and weeks. Start to play catch up, right? Money start to flow into them because they are way behind, and people can get more bang for the buck out of them than they can a lot of the stocks they've already ran up, okay? So that's just looking at that one. When you look at all the momentum indicators, you can clearly see there's stochastic looking good, bullish MACD cross, RSI starting to come into overbought. This is on the daily right here, but it can definitely go higher, that is for sure. But all the momentum's pushing this thing up. I mean, it ain't going to have pullbacks along the way. That is healthy. Look at the weekly right here. Again, this is an upward trend, okay? And so that's starting to turn back up. And so we'll see what this one does tomorrow. But again, I got that trend line there. If we do pull down, I expect it to hit that trend line and bounce again. And then going on to SOFI. Oh my God, it was red today. Finally, look at this move in SOFI. Look at how freaking overbought this thing has been. This is a weekly chart, by the way. A weekly, almost sitting at 90. Never been there, ever. Even that crazy move over there to the left. Never been there. Look at that. How overstretched some of this stuff is. Of course, you finally got to get some kind of profit taking of some kind, but it wasn't just profit taking. It waited until what? I mean, look at this. This is from August 5th, the bottom. This thing moved 178% in, what is that, 3.5 months right there? And then if you just try to pull it, let's say from election day, which I believe is right here, then you're looking at, what is it, 58% in 21 days. And this ain't even supposed to be a high-flying stock, right? I mean, it's been dead for like forever. But when you look at it, what did it do? It came into resistance, 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 resistance. So heavy line of resistance. Finally got some kind of pullback. Finally got some kind of pull down. And if you're in this for the long term, we take all these away, you want, and I'll show you a pound tennis chart in just a second, what I'm talking about here, you want to start basing out some form of support, right? You start taking this skyrocket up, and I'll show you Upstart's chart in just a second. Again, you're going to have a major pullback on your hands. And if I switch to the daily and start pulling up some kind of trend lines, I mean, this thing has been on a freaking tear. You got hardly any kind of support down below all this stuff, right? That may be right there if you're talking about it, but look at that. That just shows you how steep this climb has been, and now you've broken that little steep trend line. So it could come down to this other one right here. You know, when I look at this, you can maybe say, okay, maybe you get some support right here. Maybe. That's very thin. But again, that would give you some trend line support, horizontal support on that right there. You pull a fib on it, almost down to a discount from right there. But again, I'm not saying it has to pull back this far, but this is normal. This is what you want to see, okay? Start clearing the people out that don't want to hold long term, that were just trading it. Maybe they're profit taking and leaving and going about their way, and we'll see who picks up the shares at what price. But again, just have a plan. If you're looking at this right here, because everybody likes to buy the tippy top right going into resistance. They go, I want to buy here. You know, maybe it breaks above that. Obviously, you know if it breaks above that, then again, you're cooking with Crisco. Somebody asked me what that means. From the south, that means you're really hot. Okay, it's moving. It's going to move up really well. All right, but again, it's at resistance. This makes sense. This is not a bad thing. It needs to, and it's so far above its 200 at this point in time. It's crazy, okay? And this is one of these low float, stocks that it gets manipulated up like that. Now, you look at Hood right here. You guarantee people are buying there. You see a big drop down once it hit that level. That level is not magic, okay? This is another one. Been on a huge move up since August, 193% since August. Since the election, another one of these. Huge gap up, 71% in 29 days. Okay, huge moves up. And that level it got rejected, I bet you if I even look at it, it represents something, right? So we'll draw, or we'll put this line right here on it so you can tell exactly where it's at. And you look, that is historical resistance for this thing. It used to be support, flip resistance, 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 resistance. Boom, okay? And it hit it again, and you saw a major smackdown, big time smackdown. So that is a major resistance level. Again, if it gets over that level, then you're cooking with Crisco, okay? Until then, you start to look at this, and you can see it's kind of been stair-stepping. So at least you're putting in some kind of support right there. So, okay, if it comes down, maybe in this area, maybe in that zone I got drawn out there, maybe that's where we get this bounce at. That is not bad. That is healthy. You look at where maybe you can get you since the election day. Where is a discount? Depending on where you would draw it from, if it comes up right there, if that's where you would do it from, just draw your field wherever you're going to draw it. But I would say right down that shade area right above it is where you're going to see some support, right? Now, looking at Tesla, huge day for Tesla. Big move up. What caused this? All right, it's becoming all of a sudden they start earning more money? No. This thing ended up having an enormous day right out of the gates because it got not one, not two. I read 4 different price upgrades. They were all over this thing. And I mean, immediately, as soon as it hit, the options just started flowing in. Call sweeps galore. It rocketed up and then just kind of sold sideways and down the rest of the day. It was like it's flagging again. I thought personally, I'll be honest with you, let me know in the comments what you thought. When it came out like this swinging and I didn't see anything else doing anything, I thought, boy, this thing's going to 380. But they stopped it in its tracks and now they're just kind of flagging. So let's see if we get a breakout again tomorrow. But as soon as you saw this, so again, when you look at this, look for it to break out of this trend line. If it comes down, look for it to retest right there in that little shaded horizontal line right there, which is around 361.40. Okay, now as soon as I saw this, you pretty much knew what was NVIDIA doing. Wasn't going to do nothing. Okay, it was actually red most of the day, along with a lot of other semis. What are we watching for? We're seeing if it curls over. It gives that right shoulder or not. We'll know very quickly if it breaks at 50 and it can't hold 140.42. Okay, but if you look closely, and we'll switch this over, I'll zoom in for you on the hourly. See how well it held that area up there multiple times? Let me get rid of these moving averages right here. You can see it a lot better. You can see it had multiple tests on it throughout the day and yesterday, and it held 144.61 multiple times. Okay, that's what I was saying. You can see this thing turn up, but unfortunately, if Tesla's moving, NVIDIA and them just don't move. Okay, it's like the option market can only support one of them or something. I don't know what it is with that, but that's what you're looking for on NVIDIA. And I told you guys yesterday on SOX versus SMH, man, that is a barrier. Okay, the 100, the 50, the 200 trend line resistance got rejected off the 100. Okay, so no surprise there. Still in a ugly uptrend right here. But this is another one. If it breaks above all of that, that means semis are on board because this is more equally weighted than SMH is. And you almost guaranteed by looking at it, NVIDIA and AMD and Taiwan Semiconductors are on the move. Okay, now Palantir, I was saying when I was talking about the other stocks, when you look at this, what's this one done, right? It moved up. It consolidated. We're moving up again. We're at the top of that box. We've hit the 1.272 fib. That's where we're holding going into on Friday. I don't expect it to break above that. I could be wrong and come out with some news or something. But again, this one is basically had its big move up, consolidated. So now if it does happen to come down, okay, it has some area where you go, hey, it should be able to hold this, right? You should be breaking about 59, I think it is, down to 59. You should have support. Okay, and again, that's what I was talking about. You don't have to have a discount for a stock to move up. This one's been a lot of news. Okay, it just gets news after news after news, but it never got this discount. Remember we talked about this? Never got it. Never came to the 50% discount. Just kept moving up, but it did consolidate and allow the moving averages to start to catch up. Okay, the 50 doesn't look anywhere near as far away as it did before. Unlike you get an upstart, right? This thing skyrocketed up here, dropped 25%, came down into a discount right there. Got to the top of that gap and then rocketed back up. Now it's coming back down right here. So it is in a consolidation zone. I'd rather see it fill that gap, hit that trend line coming down because that's where the 50 moving average is. But again, this is what I'm talking about. You take a rocket up, you're taking a rocket right back down on these stocks right here. And if you like to do that, it's fine. But as a long-term shareholder, I personally like to do that kind of stuff when I'm in a stock. I'd rather see it actually build out some support. That's just me. But if it does come down, look for where the 50 is, trendline support, and right beneath that golden pocket around the 0.79 fib. That would be a really nice area. Doesn't mean we're going to get it, but if we do see some weakness coming up for probably 18th, 19th, somewhere in there, then that's what to look for. Now, big news coming out tomorrow in the morning, average hourly earnings, non-farm employment change, which is the big one, unemployment rate, and then you'll have consumer sentiment and inflation expectations. So I know that was a lot to take in. Let me know what you think down at the bottom. I always enjoy reading your comments. Please put your questions for the video on Saturday. If you have any, I'll try to get to them. Feel free to sign up for the membership, which a lot of you do, and I really appreciate it. There's what you get for it. Less than a McDonald's combo, which they have McRib now. I'm so happy. My wife makes fun of me for that, but I love the McRib for some odd reason. So anyway, have a good one, and I'll see you guys on Saturday.